Hey friends, welcome in. Merry Christmas. I can't wait to share with you my hard rock version of the classic Christmas song, Jingle Bells. But just before I do, I want to take you on a little journey here and teach you some powerful truths about the significance of bells at Christmas. You're definitely going to learn some things in this video that you have never thought about regarding Christmas and bells, man. This might just blow your mind. And then at the end, after we learn some awesome truths about God's holiness and bells and how all of that relates with Christmas, then I'm going to hand it off and we're going to have an opportunity to watch Jingle Bells, the Pastor Brad hard rock version, all right? I'm so glad you're here. It's going to be awesome. It's going to rock you up, and it all starts right now. Rocking you up for Jesus Christ with classic style hard rock music and practical Bible teaching. At Christmas, you've probably noticed there's bells everywhere. You walk into the store and you see the little red bucket and the Salvation Army bell ringer. I've been a bell ringer a few times. I don't know if you've ever been blessed to see a really good bell choir doing Christmas carols. They're awesome. And then I don't know if you live anywhere close to a church with a bell tower or not, but boy, those are beautiful, especially on Christmas Day when those ring out celebrating the birth of Jesus. And then there's sleigh bells, of course, and we end up seeing those sleigh bells on all kinds of things other than sleighs, right? Have you ever seen those doorknob little hangers that people put around so that every time you open the door, you hear the jing, 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 jing? Or hats with the little pom-pom and the bells in them? Man, when I was a little kid, I honestly can remember that my mom would get these special decorative soaps out at Christmas time. You know, we do all these pump and liquid soaps now, but we used to actually use the good old, bars of soap in the day, and she'd put these decorative soaps in this special dish, and they were shaped like bells and other Christmas shapes, but we weren't even allowed to wash our hands. It was just for decoration. Bells are everywhere. So what's up with all the bells at Christmas time? What's the connection between bells and God's gift of his son at Christmas? The roots of this tradition of bells go all the way back to the beginnings of the Old Testament, to 1,400 years before Christ in the book of Exodus. Once a year, the high priest would engage in a litany of purification rituals, and then he would be dressed in this very special priestly garb that was only used for this one day in that year, and it was all in preparation for his stepping into what was known as the most holy place, the Holy of Holies, the most holy place in the temple. Exodus 28 verse 35 is one verse that describes this event. The sound of the bells will be heard when he, the high priest, enters the holy place before the Lord, and when he comes out. See, they would sew bells into the garments so that as the high priest went behind the curtain that separated the Holy of Holies where the Ark of the Covenant was, only he could go in there, and he could only go in there once a year on this special day called the Day of Atonement. And as he walked in, they would hear the bells. And those bells reminded them of three incredible truths. Number one, God is holy. You see, they would also tie a rope around the priest's leg, because if for any reason God was unpleased with the high priest or found him not righteous in his sight, he could strike him dead, and no one else was allowed to go in there and get the high priest, so they would have to pull him out. If they did not hear the bells ringing, they knew they had to pull him out by the rope under the curtain. God is holy. The second truth that those bells reminded the people of is that God is present. You see, if he's holy but he's nowhere to be found, then there's no reason to be fearful or in awe of him. But because he's present and he's holy, now there's an amazing environment of respect and awe. And the third truth that those bells remind God's people of is that God desires to reconcile us to himself. You see, when we sinned and went our own way, God could have just let us go and said, all right, you're just going into eternity separated from me and go to hell, and that's the end of it. But he said, no, I love you. I'm going to pursue you. I'm going to call a people called Israel. I'm going to form a nation. I'm going to teach them how to relate with me. And this Day of Atonement was part of that. I'm going to create a priesthood. They're going to do all these things that are going to be a forerunner to my son who's going to come and fulfill all of that. But at this point, the high priest is the mediator for God's people, and he's going back there to atone for the sins of the people. As I've already mentioned, this day was called the Day of Atonement. A great way to understand the meaning of the word atonement is to break the word down. At one meant. We are separated from God because of our sin, but through his word and through rituals like the Day of Atonement, God began to teach people that there could be a substitute, that there could be another life sacrificed, and the blood represented the life. And the priest, the mediator, could take that blood and bring it before God in the most holy place and sprinkle it before God, and the sins of the nation could be atoned for so that the people could be at one with him again. In the book of Hebrews, in the New Testament, chapter 9, the Hebrew writer teaches us that Jesus is the great high priest. priest to end all high priests. He's the heavenly high priest who left heaven, came and dwelt among us. And through his work on the cross, he became the great mediator. And he took his own blood, because he was also the Lamb of God, into the heavenly sanctuary, into the most holy, heavenly Holy of Holies. And he sprinkled his own blood before the Father once and for all, atoning for all sin, past, present, and future, for all who would put their trust in him. And so these bells that were woven into the priestly garments of the high priest, they rang as he went in as a mediator with blood to make atonement for the people. And now that you've learned this lesson as God's people, I hope that every time you hear a Christmas bell from this day forward, you will always think of your high priest, Jesus, who came to be the mediator, to shed his own blood and bring it before the Father and make atonement for you so that you could be at one with him through faith in Jesus. And now, with a brand new insight into the awesomeness of bells, here is my song, my spin, my Pastor Brad hard rock version of the classic Christmas song, Jingle Bells. Enjoy it, man. If you have any questions about what it means to follow Jesus, leave them in the comments. Keep your eyes on him, and have a Merry Christmas.